All right, what's up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD Mode podcast weekly real estate tip, where every single week I come to delivering the tips, tactics, and strategies that I've learned in my 20-year-long real estate journey that have allowed me to personally become one of the top realtors and team leaders on the planet, with selling well over 7,000 homes and sharing this information with you here in hopes that you take this information in, take massive action on it, and go out there and create that real estate business in life that you truly know that you want and deserve. All right, so today I'm here to talk to you about one of the most important topics, one of the most important things that we need to get dialed in when it comes to new client acquisition, which is lead follow-up. So I'm going to talk to you and break down how to convert leads into clients, into appointments, into sales. And most specifically, okay, how to go out there and turn these leads into appointments. I know that most of you are pretty damn good on once you get face-to-face. You know, most real estate agents that I talk to, it's like, hey, once I get face-to-face, I'm good at connecting, I'm good at converting. Now we'll talk about things to do to make sure that because there's probably areas of improvement there. We got to understand that real estate is a two-step sales process. So step number one is setting the appointment. So all your lead gen, lead follow-up exists to set the appointment. Step two of the sales process is to convert that appointment through your world-class buyer consultation, world-class listing presentation into a customer. So then that way you got more customers. Customers equate to more sales, right? But most agents that I talk to, they think that they have a lead gen problem. But I've met very few that have an actual lead gen problem. Lead gen is one of the most easy things to do out there as far as generating leads. You know, offering something of value in exchange for somebody's contact information, boom, you got a lead. But then from there, it's their inability to convert those leads into appointments that becomes the greater issue. So in order to do this, you have to have a proven follow-up protocol to maximize conversions when it comes to your ability to go out there and set more appointments, convert these leads into sales. So this is what I want to break down here with you in depth today. Now, real quick, before I do so, make sure to check out gsdmode.com for more additional free training, more additional resources. I highly encourage you to take advantage of two free resources on there right now. Number one is the free in-depth masterclass I have taking place right now, which is 6 steps to 3xing your real estate business or more in the next 12 months. I want to make sure that all of you have everything that you need to ensure that 2025 is your best year yet. This is an in-depth 3-hour hardcore in-depth masterclass to make sure that you have all the information, knowledge that you need to go out there and dominate this next 12 months inside your real estate business. And then at the end of the training, because I want to make sure that you've got the information that you need, but equally as importantly, I need to make sure that you're able to execute on what you learn. So at the end of the training, I give you the resource guide to download that gives you your implementation guide. So you'll have the information that you need to crush it, but then have the guide to walk you through to ensure that you're executing on what you learn there. So 100% free, in-depth, hardcore masterclass. Highly encourage you to take advantage of that while it exists. And then from there, I encourage you to jump on a free 60-minute Zoom coaching call with me personally, where you and I can break down and do a deep dive into your current business, where your business is at, where your 12-month goals are, long-term goals and visions, what you're currently doing, what your biggest obstacles are. Then from there, I'm going to map out what my exact recommendation is, what my personal blueprint strategy recommendation is for you based on where you're at in your business and your unique situation of what you need to do to get from where you're at to where you want to go. So if you want to take advantage of those, go to gsdmode.com. Okay. So let's just jump in here to how to convert leads into appointments, into sales. Okay, so the first thing, now I talked about this a moment ago with real estate being a two-step sales process. So I'll be quick on this, but you have to make sure that you master your listing presentation and master your buyer consultation. Look, you don't want to put all this energy and effort into setting the appointment. So all your lead gen, lead follow-up, because that exists to accomplish part one of the two-step sales process. Setting the appointment, but then we got to get on that appointment and we got to convert that at a high level, right? So you don't want to exhaust all this energy and effort to just half-ass your overall conversions. Appointment conduction, sorry, tongue twister there, exist for one reason only, to move that potential client into a client. That is it. So when you're going on your buyer consultation, you're going on a listing presentation, you should have one objective in mind, and that's leaving there with a signed listing agreement, leaving there with a signed buyer broker agreement in hand. So you want to make sure that you're mastering those. You should be converting these like at 90% or greater. Industry average is like 50%, which freaking sucks. You don't want to be converting at 50%. You should be converting at, let's say at least 85%. I really want to see my agents converting at 90% or greater. So make sure you hone that in and dial that in. Okay, so now let's get into specific tactics when it comes to setting appointments, converting leads into appointments, converting leads into sales. Okay, so the first thing I want you to understand then from there is that appointments get set on the phones. So I don't care if your business is inbound, outbound, like I do a combination of all of it and have throughout my career. Most of my business has been inbound though, like people coming to us, leads coming to us. So even with inbound sources, appointments get set on the phones. Now I have a lot of automation in my business, which we'll talk about later here in the podcast today. So emails going out, text messages going out, video, I have a lot of automation happening. But at some point, we got to get on the phone, and that's where 90+% of your appointments and conversions are going to happen on the phones, right? So we got to get good on the phones. So my recommendation, I'm going to walk you through what my universal call follow-up protocol is for my leads. Now, this is going to apply like 99% of the time. There's going to be some scenarios and some situations, certain specific lead sources, like, okay, it's going to be, one-offs, right? Like, okay, if I'm going after asset managers to get a new REO account, I will not apply this, these universal frameworks for, but pretty much, every traditional lead source that we can think of, online, offline in this industry, these apply the vast majority of the time. So these are my universal call tasking campaigns, my follow-up campaigns, if you will, with any lead. Okay, so before I get into what the actual timeframes are, I just want you to understand we've got the initial call, then we've got that initial conversation, then we've got all the follow-up conversations after that. So scripts are good. Scripts are important. I got scripts for everything that you could possibly imagine inside this business. But as soon as I possibly can, I want to get off scripts. And the more that you can understand what the overall objective is of the actions that you are taking, then you don't have to rely on scripts. Because even if you have scripts, things go off script very fast, very quickly. You got to be able to script jump all this stuff. So when I understand the objectives, if I understand the overall goals of that interaction, well, then I don't need to rely on these scripts. So this is just, again, I'm going to walk you through my framework for somebody that's closed over 7,000 homes. So I feel like we got this down and we convert pretty damn well. I do and my teammates do. Okay, so that initial call, objective of the initial call, initial conversation is to identify their goal, identify their timeline, set the appointment if able or appropriate, if unable or appropriate, because we know their goal and we know their timeline. Now we know how to follow up accordingly to maximize conversions. So when I'm doing my initial calls, that initial call, what I'm walking you through here, because I've got my no time frame established, then my time frame established, call task, tasking, call tasks that we do. The reason why in my mind, I'm always thinking call tasking drips because these live inside my CRM, which I'll talk to you guys about later. Because if you have a CRM that can help, keep this stuff on task, you'll be that much more effective with your follow-up. Okay. So when I get a lead, all my initial calls that I'm making, and this stays in place till I have that initial call with them, till I have that conversation with them. And again, identify their goal, identify their timeline, set the appointment if able or appropriate, but if unable or appropriate, because I know goal and timeline, now I know how to follow up accordingly with my phone calls to maximize conversions for if and when they're ready. Because you got to understand, real estate is a numbers game. You're going to have your immediate people that are ready to hot and trot. Then you're going to have your 3 or 6 month people, then your 12-month people, then your 2-year people, and then your 10-year people. The pros in this industry are playing the long game. They understand I got to be good at all of it. I got to be good at the immediate, the low-hanging fruit. I got to be good at the 6-month people, the 12-month people, the 2-year people, the 5-year people, the 10-year people, right? Because I'm going to be in the business in 10 years. So like I just want to, like, I don't care when somebody's buying or selling. I just want to maximize my positioning. So if and when they are ready to buy and sell, boom, I'm their go-to person. So we gotta again, play the whole game here. So with my initial timeline frequency, when that lead comes in, now this is, again, I got this lead, but I haven't had a conversation with them yet. I don't know what their timeline is. I don't know what their goal is. So I'm going to call them day one. Then I'm going to call every other day for 14 days, then every 21 days for an entire year. Now, it's a pretty aggressive frequency. And my recommendation is to be aggressive with frequency, but never aggressive with people. Being aggressive and pushy and hard salesy with people is the least most ineffective way to sell in the era that we are. I want to do the opposite. I call it selling without selling. Yes, I'm selling. Yes, I'm leading the process, but I want to do it in such a way where people feel as if they are not being sold to. So that's my initial call frequency. Now, if I can't get a hold of somebody after a full year of making all those phone calls, okay, then I just let the automation do its thing. Now, I want you to understand, though, those exist. Those calls exist just to have that initial conversation and do the things that I told you about on that initial conversation. Then from there, whatever they tell me their timeline is, like if I'm unable to set the appointment, right? Whatever they tell me that their timeline is, I'm going to cut that in half. And then I have, okay, 6 months or under, 6 to 12 months, and then 12 plus months out. Each one is a different frequency. So as an example, if they're 6 months or under, which means that they told me, so let's just say, if it's a potential buyer, I'm like, so, if you were to, possibly consider buying, what would you say your best guesstimate to when that time frame might possibly be? And they tell me, probably, I don't know, 6 to 12 months. I'm going to cut that in half. That's going to mean 6 months or less, right? So then I click a button in my CRM. It's tasking me to follow up with them every 30 days at a minimum. So that way, no matter what, every 30 days, they're getting a call from me. If they're 6 to 12 months out, they're getting a call from me every 45 days. If they're a year plus out, which means that they're 2+ years out, that's going to be a different frequency. So we got our timeline established. That exists, at least with lead follow-up, because look, you are going to be able to set appointments on those initial phone call conversations, but it's going to be a small minority. So the majority of these are going to be, we want to buy or sell in the future, but we're not ready right now. Yeah, right. So, okay, cool. We just need to position ourselves for if and when they're ready. So then I have my timeline established, right? Call tasking frequency from there. Okay, so you got to make sure that you've got those honed in and dialed in. And again, you're setting yourself up to not just play the low-hanging fruit game. That's what amateurs do that have low, shitty, terrible conversions, because that's always going to be a small percentage, right? The bigger percentage is going to be the 6-month people, the 12-month people, the 2-year people, the 5-year people, the 10-year people. Because if you just think about the amount of adults that could buy or sell real estate in your area, what's the percentage of them buying over the next 10-year phase? How many homes have sold in your market over 10 years versus over the next 90 days? Right? Okay. It's a significant amount more, right? It's a shit ton more. So this is what I mean of, not just going after that low hanging fruit, which is going to really hinder your overall conversions. So knowing and understanding, first part of this is knowing and understanding that appointments get set on the phone and making sure that you are following up with the right frequency and know what the objective is of those conversations. Now, what is the objective? Because a question I get all the time is, well, Josh, I get with that initial conversation, but man, all these, like, let's just say they're a year plus out, and you're calling them pretty frequently. Let's just say they tell you that they're, I don't know, 12 to 18 months out, which would mean I'm putting them in my 6 to 12 month, call tasking follow-up window. That means I'm going to be calling them every 45 days. Right. And then I get agents. They're like, well, what do I say? I don't want to follow up with the same script. I don't want to follow up the same, thing every single time. This is why, again, understanding these objectives is important. So the objective of every follow-up call after the fact is to build rapport, reconfirm goal and timeline, set appointment if able or appropriate. So building rapport, okay, I'm going to take detailed notes in my CRM about that conversation, about last conversation that we had. And I'm always going to focus on that connection rapport first. Hey, Joe, just want to check in, see how you and the family are doing. Hey, man, last time we talked, you mentioned that you just got that promotion at work, man. I mean, how's that going? Tell me about it. Like, I'm always going to lead off with the human connection, because what's the real estate game? Get people to know you, like you, trust you, be aware of what you do for a living, stay in touch frequently, your business grows. How do you get them to know, like, and trust you? Is by being attentive to them, being interested in them, right? So each experience that I have, I'm taking detailed notes to build each experience builds off the previous experience, right? So then I can set myself up for that next experience, and then from there, hey, real quick before I let you go, last time we talked, you mentioned that you were about, maybe 12 to 18 months out from, possibly thinking about, making a move here in, the Phoenix area. Is that still about right? Or if things maybe change there? No, that still sounds right. Okay, cool. And I just want to make sure, I know your time is valuable. I want to make sure that everything that I'm sending you meets your criteria. So if you were to make this move in the next, let's just say 12 to 18 months, I have in my notes here that you are looking for XYZ. Is that still what you're looking for? Or is that changed at all as well? Right. So I'm just going to reconfirm those and then set the appointment if able or appropriate. Now, for me, I start getting aggressive at setting the appointment when they're 6 months or lesser out. Like once I get close to that 6-month window, that's where I start get aggressive at offering the appointment. When I say aggressive at offering the appointment, again, I'm never aggressive with human beings. I'm going to be selling the value of the appointment. I'm not aggressive and pushy with them. I'm aggressive with, meaning frequency attempts. So meaning that every conversation that I have with them, hey, I know last time, you said you weren't quite ready yet. But I just wanted to bring it up again because of my professional experience. Right now is the best time to do this. But I highly recommend that we set up a time to meet so I can walk you through the home buying process here in the state of Arizona, blah, 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 going into the home buying, the appointment setting script, right? So I'm going to make sure I'm re-offering it every time, trying to reset that appointment, set that appointment, right? Okay. So then from there, next step is make sure when we're selling the appointment, look, why you need the appointment is the real estate agent. You know why you need it. Yeah, right. Like we know that 88% of buyers and sellers go with the first agent that they meet with and connect with in person. Like, why you want it, need it. Why do they want it, need it? That's what I want you thinking about. You've all heard this saying, with them, what's in it for me? That's what's going to get them to say yes for this. So you got to sell the value in the appointment. If a buyer isn't thinking about buying a house for 8 months, or if a seller isn't looking to list their home in for another 8 months, why in the hell should they take time out of their busy day to meet with you right now? That is the question that you need to answer. And you need to articulate that. So this isn't about you. This is about them and why it's important to them. And the difference is that it's going to make to them, how it's going to line, get all their ducks in a row, how it can make their life better, easier, you got to know how to sell the value of the appointment for them. So they're like, yeah, dude, that makes sense. And I do want to meet with you. Right? Like this is important. I want to meet with you. Like that's your problem to go out there and solve, right? Like you've got to figure that out and solve that, right? And the better that you get at that, the more appointments you're going to go out there and set. Okay. And then the next thing here. So we talked about mastering your buyer and listing appointments, talked about, the importance of getting damn good on the phones and setting up, knowing the objectives of that initial call, every follow-up call, and the timelines. Talked about selling the value of the appointment. The next one is I highly encourage you. This is the best damn guarantee, best damn USP, unique selling proposition I ever installed inside my business. A lot of other people looked at my real estate business and been like, oh, Josh, you offer all these USPs, like your home sold guarantee, or I buy it. I can't do that. And they think that those are the USPs that have led to my success. No. Telling you right now, those happen. The reason why I do the your home sold or we buy it guarantee is it just allows me to position my investors to get more deals. It doesn't win me more listings per se. It isn't like those are not game changers. The one single one that has been a game changer that all of you can follow has been this one, my 100% zero pressure policy. Right? Because one of the reasons people are not setting an appointment with you is you're either not making them feel comfortable enough, you're not selling the value of the appointment. Right? Like those two big things. Now we also got to make sure that we're not setting the appointment too far out and we're confirming it properly to increase show rates. But then from there, okay, how do you get them to feel comfortable with you? Right? That's going to be through this no pressure policy. So every time I have a conversation with a lead, I'm letting them know that, hey, just so you know, inside my real estate business, I have a very strict, absolute no pressure policy. So you never have to worry about being pressured, hard sold, push. Look, when I'm being in a sales experience and being sold something, I cannot stand it when somebody's high pressuring me. I don't believe in treating others how I don't want to be treated. So you never have to worry about that with me. The sole purpose of this meeting is to provide you with all the information that you need to make the best informed decision for you and your family, regardless of what that decision is. Look, at the end of this meeting, you might decide that, hey, home ownership isn't for you, not for you now, not for you never. And if that's your decision, that's okay. Hey, you may decide that home ownership is for you, but now isn't the time. And that's okay too. Hey, you may even decide that, hey, home ownership is for you. Now is the time, but maybe you do not feel comfortable with utilizing me as a real estate agent. That's okay too. Like I said, the sole purpose of this meeting is to provide you with all the information that you need to make your best informed decision for yourself and for your family. Does that sound fair? Right? So like just hitting that no pressure policy. Now I'm going to tell you, okay, people don't believe you in your first conversation, maybe even the second conversation, but now all of a sudden you've had 4 conversations together. You're just giving them value, checking in on them, doing all the things you said you were going to do. And you haven't pushed them, you haven't pressured them, you haven't hard sold them, throughout that experience. Now they're going to believe it. And dude, it just skyrockets. at least for me, it has been the single biggest game changer out of any unique selling proposition, any, value differentiator that I've ever done. This one right here. And it's something that all of you can do. Okay. So then from there, the next step is to make sure that you are leveraging automation. So I'm talking about leveraging automation. Yeah, right. We're talking really about your CRM systems, but not just enough to have a CRM system. Like we got to make sure that we're building this out and doing this. So automate. What are the things that we can automate with the follow-up? Okay. So for me, I'm going to automate my email, like drip email and text messages. Most leads that I have coming in, depends on the lead source, but most are going to go on a 1,000-day email text drip campaign that speaks specifically to that, that lead source that they came in by, that would be relevant to them, So, but that's just emails, text messages, several a week, going out every single week, every few days, checking in, without me having to do anything. I just click the button and then boom, they're getting these. Okay. Then we got instant, property alerts. Okay. I want to beat them to Zillow, right? So, and I use MLS property alerts in my CRM for buyers and sellers, right? So most people just use them for buyers. Now I want to do instant property alerts for buyers so I can beat them to Zillow. Second, anything comes available that meets their criteria, boom, just, right? So I got, 1,000-day email text strips going out. I got instantaneous email property alerts going out. I got my phone calls going out, but then from there with sellers, like let's just say it's a FSBO lead. Okay. It's like anytime a property sells that's similar to theirs. Okay. Boom. I want that going to them so they can keep a pulse of what's going on in the marketplace, right? And there's going to be certain sellers in certain situations where maybe I have a weekly report of anything that's, hit the market or got sold that's similar to their property. So again, they can keep a pulse on the market. So these can kind of be used in two ways. Then from there, I know that this isn't full automation, but if you look at your mass your mass and or broadcast emails, same thing, but people call them two different things, right? Mass email or broadcast email. So, okay, I can go on my system, my CRM, and email 90,000 people with the energy and effort of creating one email. So, okay, I have on average 5.5 monthly broadcast emails that go out, monthly mass emails that go out, in addition to all the other things. So, okay, now they're getting, 5.5 average monthly mass emails. They're getting the email and text message, 1,000-day automation drips, right? They're getting the instant property alerts and they're getting the phone calls, right? That I'm doing. So I know it's a lot of follow-up, but here's what I want you to assume that every single lead that is inside your CRM, or that you have, whether you put in a CRM or maybe you're, being reckless with your lead gen and you don't have a CRM. But any lead that you have, assume that they are speaking with, communicating with, and are in a dozen other agent systems, because they probably are, probably even more than that. So what are you doing to differentiate yourself? What are you doing? And this is something else I'm always doing. Like with my follow-up, it's always, okay, how can I differentiate myself? I know that, okay, all these other agents are going to be just plugging in the basic BS drip campaigns and the, the CRM that they adopt, like I write on my own. I make sure that they're of value. I send a lot of personalized video text messages. I'm always thinking, okay, what can I do to stand out that is different than my competitors, that, develops a deeper connection, informs, educates them, gets them to choose me, see the value in me, all of those things at a higher level. Like personalized video text messages are great. So I can speak into their name, hey, Joe, this is Joshua Smith. Just want to check in, see how you're doing. I'll do shit. Like maybe I find a property that meets their criteria. I think they'd be excited about. Okay. Instead of just, emailing it to them like everybody else does. Okay. I will I'll pull that thing big up on my computer. I'll turn around, do a selfie with me pointing at that with a big smile. And they're like, hey, Joe, you got to check this property out. Below is a link. I think you'll be really excited about this property. I have some available this evening. If after work you want to swing by and take a look at it, let me know. I'm here to serve, support, and help in any way I can. Hope you're having a great day. Sincerely, your realtor, Joshua Smith. Right? So it's what are you doing to stand out? What are you doing to differentiate yourself? Okay. So then from there, ending tips. Already talked about this a lot, but make sure you're using a CRM. It is, if you're doing a lot of lead gen, which is going to take a lot of lead follow-up, most agents greatly overestimate the amount of leads it takes, but then greatly underestimate the amount of follow-up it takes. It's the opposite. It takes less leads, more follow-up, right? So it's in order to stay on top of this stuff, the only way, at least I'm able to personally do it, or anybody else that I know that's doing this at a very high level, is through their customer relationship management system, CRM. Okay. Number 2, make sure that you are tracking your numbers, right? Like you want to track your numbers because this is where you can see areas of improvement, where like maybe you are shitty at your appointment set to conduction rate. Maybe it's 50%. That should be 75% or greater. Or maybe you are bad at or not getting good results at the appointment conduction to client taken rate. Like we need to know not just what your overall conversions are to create predictability, but we need to know where your skill set is lacking, where your process is lacking, where the hole is inside your protocol to quickly turn things around, right? So you got to track your numbers. And then from there, the last thing is you got to know how to handle objections. So you got to know how to be able to identify and handle objections. And I actually creating this into its own podcast. So if you're watching and listening to this, tomorrow's podcast, I'm doing, I don't know, like a 40-minute breakdown of just objection handling, how to identify and how to overcome objections effectively to move forward. So I'm going to walk you through that in depth. And it's something that you need to master. You got to be able, this is about how to have effective conversations and think of objections just as concerns. These are concerns that people have that are prohibiting them from moving forward. So you got to be able to identify them, got to be able to unpack them and make sure you're gaining what that true root core concern is, and then educating in such a way to move forward so you can continue leading the process. So that's going to be a separate podcast all on its own that will be dropped tomorrow. So make sure to check that out unless you're already a badass ninja at handling objections. But if you're not, if you need some help on that, I've got that training coming out, or that podcast coming out tomorrow. All right, guys, I hope that you found this helpful. Again, make sure to check out gsdmode.com. Jump on my 3-hour in-depth masterclass taking place right now. Jump on it while it's out there and it's still available. And if you want to schedule that 60-minute free Zoom coaching strategy blueprint session with me, where I will do a deep dive in your business and make sure that you know exactly what you must do to get from where you're at to where you want to go, you can do both of those things at gsdmode.com. All right, hopefully this was helpful. Keep crushing it. Keep kicking ass. I'll see you next time. Peace.